Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the incomparable Barry Bostwick. We're so excited to have you. I can't even tell you.
Oh no, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm such a fan of the fans. You know, I really am.
Well, we love that about you. So it's 35 years later. You're still a sex symbol. You're still a defining, iconic image of masculinity and sex from this era in this movie that people are still going to see. I mean, I personally know women who would throw themselves at you. I'm sure you must still have this with when you go traveling around the world. I mean, how does that feel? You know?
Do you know women who would throw themselves at me? Do you have any numbers? Maybe you can push across the table at me here? No, I'm a happily married man with two young teenage kids, and come to think of it, do you have those numbers that you can give me? You know, it's amazing. I never thought of Brad as the sexy one. But the older he's gotten, the sexier he's gotten, in my mind. You know, it's he's usually Brad was played by a woman. You know, whenever
really?
a lot of times I've done, going way back when, the costume contest many times is won by you know, a tall, beautiful, handsome young woman.
They often do have an unfair advantage, though. You know, when they
that?
get down to their skivvies, they might look a little bit more appealing to the judges.
Yeah.
Than even the most handsome Brad actor. You know?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, they. But Brad, no, I think when I was first did Brad, I mean, we all wanted to play Frankenfurter, you know.
Right.
So
even Richard, I think, you know.
Oh, sure. Well, who didn't?
Right.
You know, I mean, who doesn't now?
Right.
But who still has the body for it, you know, and who still has the chops for that? It's a difficult part, and I've played Brad my whole life. You know, I've played some form of Brad. I mean, you know, because I am in a way, you know, the guy who goes, you know, what's that line? You know, life's cheap to that type. You know, I mean, I've heard myself say that driving along as the motorcyclists come up by the. Life's cheap to that type, you know. It's probably the wrong line, but it's the same attitude, you know.
Right.
And I've played, you know, a lot of sort of young Republicans who become Republicans, you know, the mayors and the presidents and this and that, and so
and action heroes, you know.
Well, action heroes, yeah. But I wouldn't have considered Brad an action hero unless you consider the bedroom scene with Frankenfurter action, and I certainly did. Thank you very much.
It's such an interesting thing, Barry, because I mean, this has just got to be a blip in a very long career. It was a short shoot, and yet this one movie has put your face on more lunchboxes than anything else. You know, and people are always going to identify you with this on some level.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. And I mean, I was at an sci-fi convention recently, and the teenagers who come up to me and you know, and I say, well, when did you first see Rocky? Oh, well, my parents took me when I was 11. I say, can I please see your parents? I want to arrest them, you know, for you know, endangering you know, underage kids. But yeah, it just keeps on going on and on.
Interesting. And of course, you had a big background as a Broadway star and as a singer coming into this. So it's just, I wonder what you must have made of all of it, stepping onto that set, reading the script, you know, from going from Grease to that.
Yeah, you know? I was always interested in working with really creative sort of oddball people. You know, the Grease people were oddball and creative at the time. I mean, because we were one of the first people to really. They were the first people to really rediscover the 50s, and it was, and I could bring a lot of my past to it because I sort of grew up in the late 50s, early 60s. So we had a connection to it. The original cast had a connection to the era and a connection to it, and it was the same thing with Rocky Horror. It was peopled with such creative off Broadway types, you know, really cutting edge designers and musicians and actors, and I just wanted to be part of what the scene was at the time, you know. And that was really a scene. It was a scene, you know, in London, and it had been a scene here on Sunset Boulevard over at the theater, and it was a very sort of hip thing to do, you know, and hip thing to be in, you know, at that time, and it continues to be that. I saw it the other night, and I thought to myself, well, this is really a good movie. You know, besides all the stuff that goes on around it, I thought, well, this movie is very special. It's got pace and color and interesting characters and good music, and I can understand on many levels why it was discovered, and I can't understand why it was such a flop when it first went out. You know, that sort of floors me. But I didn't see it around then. I never saw it till years later.
It's amazing to me that you were never associated with the stage production of it, because it just seems like such a logical choice. I mean, now I would love to see you as the narrator or the criminologist come in as a cameo, but so that just wasn't in the cards. Did they approach you about making Shock Treatment as well? Did they come back to you about that?
No, and I said to John Goldstone, the producer, we were on a plane together last week coming back from going to London, and I hadn't seen him in 35 years, and I finally, after about, well, how long is the flight? 10 hours, and he's sitting next to me, you know, I thought, I'm really going to grill this bastard, you know, with the things that I have never asked anybody, you know. So about 8 hours into the flight, I finally say, how come you never offered me the part? You know, and he says, oh, we didn't? And I went, no, I don't believe so. He goes, I thought we had. And I said, no. It happened at a time in my life in which I think I had a manager who was turning a lot of things down for me and not telling me. Apparently, I auditioned for Evita in New York on Broadway.
Right.
They offered me the part of Shay, and apparently I turned it down.